Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement. About to jump into Game 2 of Party vs. Fantasy. But first, check out these Marines. If you want to look like a Marine and have a really cool suit, well, you gotta wait a couple hundred years until they invent those awesome spacesuits. But you know what you can do in the meantime? You can go to MLG Pro Shop. You get there by going to www.mlgproshop.com. Uh-oh, I broke it. There we go. www.mlgproshop.com. Jump in here. There's a bunch of cool attire you can get. Maybe not quite as awesome as Space Marines, but you know, it's a little more affordable. Those probably cost several thousands of dollars to get yourself a nice spacesuit. So get t-shirts, hoodies, gift packs. If you go to gift packs, you can check those out. Some 2-for-1 deals in there and whatnot. Go ahead and check it out if you want some cool attire. But let's jump into game number 2 now of Party vs. Fantasy. A couple things you're going to take a look at this game is another, basically, one-base tech opening. This time it's going to be a little bit different, focusing on Oracle harassment that the party executes. And then talking about how to defend Terran drop play as Protoss. And then, of course, utilizing Time Warp, a really cool new ability the Mothership Core has in mid-game engagement. So we'll start out this play, and we're going to take a look at what Party's doing. So he opened up in a very similar way to the last game, except after starting his Stargate units, what he did is he did not get 2 more gateways. Instead, he spent that money on a Nexus. So he's moving out here with his Oracle. He's going to do some harassment. And one thing that's awesome is that Oracles do insane damage per second. As they come in here, in just a few seconds, Fantasy's base is undefended, and they can absolutely eviscerate those workers. I mean, they just look at them, they die. Fantasy sends Marines back, but by the time the Marines get back there, so many SCVs have gone down. Now, what's important to notice is these Oracles do insanely high damage per second, but they have very short range. What this means is they're very good at killing undefended workers, as we saw here, but they're not very good at working around defense. You can see Banshees can kite around Marines. They can work around missile turrets, spore crawlers, etc. Same thing with Avoider to a lesser degree. The Oracle cannot do that because it only has 4 range. So this missile turret here is enough to totally shut down Oracle harassment in the base. So if you're a Protoss player, use that Oracle harassment. It's absolutely amazing against an undefended base. If you're not a Protoss player, you want to watch out for the Oracle harassment. Make sure that if you know they might have Oracles, get some base defense for your worker lines, or just run those workers really fast. The short range of the Oracle makes it not so amazing at running down workers. It still is okay, but you'll greatly minimize those losses. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about as this game goes on, actually another Oracle harassment. Let's talk about that real quick. So as you can see here, with the missile turret here, unlike a Banshee, he can't come in here and pick off SCVs in worker line, but he can still be annoying, kill an SCV building a starport, kill an SCV building their refinery. Not bad. I mean, any damage is good. But next part we're going to talk about is trying to defend against Terran draw play. If you're watching that last series between Innovation and TY, you'll notice how powerful the new Medevac Ignite Afterburner ability really is. It's an amazingly powerful ability. Draw play is so much stronger in Heart of the Swarm. Now, ways you can counteract this, if you're looking at it from Party's viewpoint, you want to have good scouting, right? Look at this. His Oracle is no longer harassing. He keeps it out here to make sure that he can spot any drops coming from this side. He has his Mothership Core spotting over here because he doesn't have a pylon in this corner. And of course, he's got a pylon over here at the bottom left. So you got to have good scouting. That'll help make drop play a little bit weaker. And then another thing that's going to be really strong is the Photon Overcharge ability. Photon Overcharge ability that the Mothership Core can do to the Nexus. So as soon as he sees these Medevacs speeding in, you've got much less reaction time in Heart of the Swarm. But what you do have is you've got this Mothership Core, and you can tell it to put the Photon Overcharge on the Nexus. And then once you get that Photon Overcharge on the Nexus, what you want to do, you don't let the Nexus attack move. If it does, you can see here, its first attack was on this Marine guy, blasted him right in the face. What you want to do with that Photon Overcharge is you want to grab your Nexus, because the Nexus has very good range, and it does the same damage per second as a Photon Cannon. So you can use that to focus down these little Medevac guys, right? You focus down those Medevacs really fast. And once you get rid of those, all of a sudden it drops a one-way drop, and you're in a very, very good position to defend against it. The reason why it's so important to use the Nexus to kill the medevacs because Nexus has 13 range. If you grab a Stalker to focus that medevac, let's say that medevac backs up. All of a sudden, your Stalker has to run into Marines. It dances around like an idiot, does a little jig on the floor as it tries to run through the Marines. Can't quite do it. You just wasted one of your units. The Nexus, though, with its great range, it can nail down those medevacs very, 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 very effectively. Maybe I missed a variant there. I don't know. So you want to grab it, use it to, if you notice this part does that, very, very quickly refocuses it onto the medevacs, takes those medevacs down. Once the medevacs are down, it's much easier to deal with that drop. Of course, it also forces Fantasy to try to escape with the one medevac while he still can. Although he does a smart job nailing this Oracle on the way out. But the Photon Overcharge combined with good scouting is really what you want to do to help defend against that drop play. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is if we notice what Paladin's doing is he's using a Charge Lot, Sentry, High Templar combination of units. This can be a very, very, very strong combination of units. And one thing that makes it stronger is adding in the Mothership Core, because Mothership Core now has a Time Warp ability. Time Warp is a great way to zone out a portion of a force while you can engage a separate group. It also can combine with a Psionic Storm. One thing that's tricky, though, is now you've got three spellcasters in an army. It's not super simple to use all three of them. It takes a lot of practice, but this is the time to do that practice is while right now, basically, when it's in a beta. The longer you wait, the better everyone else will get, and you've got to really learn to get your micro at controlling all these different units up to speed. So if you notice them ever splitting their units, it's a very common approach to TVP against Psystorm. Terran spreads their units. This little side squad right here, this is called the Kill Templar squad. So when the Protoss army he's focused on the main threat, these guys come in here and they'll X out a couple of these Templar, right? Focus them down real quick, and all of a sudden Terran's happy. What Protoss can do to counteract that, is you can grab your units here and you can go ahead and kill these units. But in Wings of Liberty, what a Terran player can do if you do that is all of a sudden these units can back up, these units can come across, and to stop this, what you've got to do is you've got to use some force fields. Ideally, we'll use red for Protoss stuff. Ideally, you'd hit some force bubbles over here. These will be the force fields. And those force fields can stop this army while you get rid of this one. But look where your sentries are, right? Your sentries are down here at the bottom of your army. They're not going to get up in range to force field this before this other army comes away. That's where that Time Warp comes into play. What you want to do, you want to put a Time Warp ability like right here. And then you can put another one like right here. And all of a sudden you're in a situation where that'll buy you time to get into position to throw down those force fields. So we can see as Party goes about this. Oops. What he's going to do is he's going to try to do that. He's going to jump on this, use the Time Warp ability. And then as the Terran runs, he can jump another Time Warp ability. Unfortunately, his units kind of started pathing the wrong way around the bushes. His sentries, ideally, let me clear the screen really quickly. Ideally, these sentries, this guy and this guy, would have tried to make their way up around here. And then they could throw down force fields around this area, and he could kill that army. And then, of course, after he kills that army, he can march up and knock out the third base on the mini-map because the other army couldn't get in there. It doesn't quite work out that way. Like I said, 3 spellcasters, dealing with unit pathing, of course, dealing with macro behind it, constant macro. Very, very, very difficult. But you know what? It's still okay. It's not the ideal situation, but he can still use those Time Warps, combine them with Storms, get some extra damage done. And then as he pushes in for the kill here, just great Storm micro, combining spells. You know, even if you're out of Time Warps, you can still combine Force Fields and Storms for this amazing potential of slaughter. Push on to win the game. Basically, with 3 new spellcasters that Party has, right? He's now got the Sentry, the High Templar, and the Mothership Core. These all have the potential to really obstruct a Bio Army's ability to move around a map of micro. It really, really punishes Terran players for not getting those ghosts. So, as a Protoss player, you got to use that time. Well, you don't got to, but try to play around that Time Warp as another tool to help prevent the Bio from moving around. While it's not as good as a Force Field is, because it just slows it down instead of totally stopping the units, it is available on a flying unit. So you can do things like put the Mothership Core in zones that you couldn't get a sentry to. So it's a little bit more versatile in certain instances than the Force Fields, although it's slightly weaker of a spell just looking at the ability itself. But try to practice to use all those free combinations is very, very powerful in conjunction to separate armies and really get those amazing Psystorms you want to get down. Take a short break now, and then we're going to analyze Game 3 between Party and Fantasy.